Okay, so I see, okay. I see John Nitchie and John Adams. Okay, thank God. There's
Hi,
S.
Esther.
Yay. Okay. I think Becky, I'm gonna send you an invite because I don't know why that link's not working.
Recording in progress.
Shaz, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Never a dull moment. Hi, everybody. I'm going to wait one more minute to get, maybe one more minute for people to join us, and then we'll start.
Okay, I'm in.
Woohoo. You know, we've only been doing this for how long, and we still,
Yeah, that was really weird.
yeah. Okay, so I think we're live, Chaz. Are we green?
We are.
All right, woohoo. Like I said, never a dull moment. Hey, everybody. I'm really glad you guys are here. We've been doing these webinars for over a year now, and of course, today we get some extracurricular surprises. But I'm very, very excited you guys are here. I've been waiting over a year, actually more than that, to actually have a focused webinar just on this topic because so many of our clients and prospective clients have questions about, you know, the differences between Social Security when whether you're married, you're single, divorced, or widowed. There are different rules for Social Security, which is crazy. There are so many rules. So I want to recognize that this workshop is not gender specific. And the reason I say that is I have so many folks that signed up for this. Maybe they're not attending yet, but they will later, that were men because they might have had or might have people that they care about. They want to know more. But what's really important is women represent 56% of all Social Security beneficiaries age 62 and older, and about 66% of all beneficiaries over age 85. So this webinar is important whether you're single, divorced, widowed, and you can be a guy that's widowed. You can be a guy that's divorced, and these strategies are important. So I wanted to emphasize that this is not a gender specific webinar, even though it's called Social Security Planning for Women. So before I get started, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kelly Olczak. I'm the managing partner of Lindley and Company, and we manage the finances for a handful of families in the area. I'm really proud to say that we are 100% women-owned registered investment advisor, which means that we are fiduciary. We are located in the Bushnell's Basin outside of Rochester, New York. I am a certified financial planner, and I've held that designation since 2009. Also joining us today is Chaz Miller, who's really my boss. She's our operations manager, and Becky Gillette, who is my co-founder, partner, our dedicated chief compliance officer. we're really happy that you guys are here. Chaz is gonna be our Vanna White today. So, I really want you guys to ask questions, and we're gonna use the chat function in Zoom, and Chaz is gonna be our moderator, so feel free to stop me. We're gonna cover some really detaily stuff, and I don't want to just keep going. I want to make sure that you guys can stop us and say, hey, what does this mean? Okay. So one of my most favorite things, and I think I can speak for Becky and Chaz about this, is that we really love to educate our clients and potential clients to help them become better, more informed investors. And so this webinar is so important to so many people. We only have one poll today, and at the end of our workshop, there's going to be a survey for you to give us our fun pass or fail. So Chaz, what I'd like you to do is launch the only poll that we have today. This is going to give us an understanding of who's in the audience and what's most important to you. Thanks, Chaz.
Just sent that out. There's 4 questions, so I'll give it a minute or two for folks to answer those.
So Chaz, tell me when or where we are with that.
Yeah, we got 75% participation, so I will go ahead and end that.
Great. Thank you.
And share.
So helpful. Wonderful. Yep. Awesome. This is so helpful because there are lots of details. So thank you again. Chaz, does everybody see this too? I haven't ever asked you that. Like if I'm
Yeah.
scrolling, can others scroll also, or I have to scroll?
It's individual user based.
Okay, good. Thank you. Awesome. Personal. That's great. Okay. This helps me. There's a lot of detail that we're going to cover, and I just want to make sure if there's something in here no one really is worried about, I will be able to cover more items in more detail. All right, so let's get started. So, one of the things we see a lot of questions that I have from our clients are, how I ask people, how confident are you in your ability to retire comfortably? So this is a piece of research, and this question was posed to 5,900 men and women who are still working. Not surprisingly, women are less confident in their ability to retire comfortably. 36% said that they were either not too comfortable or not at all, compared to 28% of men. Kind of a big issue. So here's another survey that asked about the financial aspects of retirement. Like, will you have enough money to live comfortably? Only 11% of unmarried women said yes. And okay, forget living comfortably. Will you have enough to meet basic retirement expenses? Just 23% of unmarried women said yes. Are you doing a good job of preparing financially for retirement? Only 15% of unmarried women said yes. So the reason this matters to me personally is I was married. For any of you that know me, you know, I have a wonderful husband and children with my husband named Gene. And prior to that, I was divorced. And for a while, I didn't know how, like, what was next. So when we talk about unmarried women, many of these unmarried women were married once, whether they were divorced or widowed, they wind up single. And so this is one of my big passions, just so you know, whether it's for you, your mom, a friend, a sibling, a relative, this topic is so key. All right, so women in general have greater concerns about the retirement security, yet do less than needed to plan for adequately addressing those concerns. This was a quote that came from a study by MetLife on women, retirement, and extra long life. Unfortunately, in too many situations, it's true, but at least we're talking about it. And so I want you to know this webinar is recorded. And if you think that somebody needs to know about this topic, even if they're not a client, at the end, you're going to get a replay. Please send it to them. I'm so passionate about helping people understand the why of this. And the reason is I have a client who recently passed away. Her name was Effie, and her husband was a scientist at Xerox. And he had like a $2,600 a month benefit on his Social Security. Okay. At 85, Effie had a $580 a month benefit at Social Security. And nobody told her that she was eligible for half of his benefit. It was brutal because you couldn't unwind that. So this is why it's really important for me as a planner to get this message out. Okay, so here are the realities. In general, women have a lower lifetime earning, lower pension, and live longer than men. Now, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And, you know, like I'm 20 years older than she is. And since then and now, women have made a lot of strides helping reduce that pay gap. There's still a pay gap. So on average, women earn 82 cents for every dollar men earn. What's really awful about that is, and we'll see this in a minute, women have to work 10 years longer to get a similar benefit as their male counterparts. What's this mean? So that gender gap means that a full-time working woman will earn $406,000 less than her male counterpart over 4 years. And this is according to a recent study by the National Women's Law Center. Let's translate that a different way. I just said this a minute ago. Women need to work 50 years compared to 40 years for men to break even. Everybody's situation, of course, is different. So this, again, is just one way that we are helping folks understand and learn more about what's important to them. But I just want to illustrate the importance of working a little longer. So going back to my mom, and we'll cover this a little bit in deeper way later, but Social Security takes the highest 35 years of your income. So in my mom's case, actually, let's not use my mom. I have another client who stayed home with their children for 10 years and then worked after the kids were old enough to go to school without her being home. She had 10 zeros in those averages, 10 zeros. They take the 35 highest earning years. So the fewer zeros, the better. Okay, so let's talk about the value of Social Security. And for those, and I can see who's on the call right now, there's been a lot of conversation around Social Security and will it be around. For those of us on this call, you know, if you're 55 and older, Social Security Trust is going to be fine. And Social Security Administration and the government are going to have to make a couple changes, which they have done in the past. So we're going to assume that everybody on this call will be eligible for the benefits that they probably see on their statements right now. Oh, before I go any further, what we're going to talk about is how you might be able to increase your lifetime benefit. That's very important. Okay, so of course, women love Social Security, especially those like my mom who did not work in an environment that paid her a W-2 paycheck. Believe me, she worked. But I think this is a really interesting concept. Social Security is something you will not outlive. So let me just, there's this really interesting person. Her name is Ida Mae Fuller. She was the first recipient of monthly Social Security check. And she lived to 100 years old. She received that Social Security income right up to the month she died. So Ida worked 3 years under Social Security, and she accumulated taxes that were paid out of her W-2 paycheck that combined was $24.75. Now, again, this is not current, but I'm fascinated by this history. So her initial Social Security check was $22.54. Her lifetime benefit, so she retired at 62, her lifetime benefit by the time she died at 100 was $22,888, which doesn't sound like a lot of money. But if you inflate those dollars, that was $104,000. So I inflated that number by 3.64%. I just think that's really fascinating. If your Social Security benefit is $2,000 and you live 10 more years, you'll receive almost $300,000, you guys. That's crazy. If you live 30 more years, you'll receive almost $1 million. Isn't that crazy? So because Social Security is inflated for, it has an inflation adjusted income, the best way to get the most out of Social Security is to live a really long time. All right. So the previous slide showed the total benefits you might receive depending on how long you live. This slide shows how your annual income could grow with that cost of living adjustment. Okay, so Social Security does not keep pace with inflation. I just want to give that to you, okay? But I think 2 years ago, my mom and dad said, wow, so every October, I should say, the SSA comes out with what your coming year's income will be inflated by for inflation. And so I think it was 2 years ago, my mom and dad said, oh my God, it's 8.6%. Last year, it was 3.2%. But on average, what I do when I do planning, I assume an average of 2%. Okay. So if your benefit is $2,000 and your annual cost of living adjustment is 2%, your monthly income in 10 years will be $2,438. In 30 years, it'll be $3,623. So again, it pays to live a long time. Okay, so let's talk about the fun stuff. Okay, that was a joke. Social Security rules and strategies. Oh my God, there are so many of them. So again, this is just a first blush. And for any of you that want to sit down, roll up your sleeves and look about your own personal situation, be very happy to do that because it is very, very complex. But it is definitely worth understanding some basics, okay? Let's start with a series of questions. So the first question is, do you qualify for Social Security on your own work record? So my mother did not, because she did not work 40 units, which is 10 years. So if you do, you paid into Social Security for at least 10 years during your lifetime. It doesn't matter if those 10 years occur all in one year, all in one stretch or over pieces and parts. So the client I was talking about before, she was a teacher. She worked for 3 years. Then they had 3 kids. So then she stayed home for 10 years, and then she went back to work. But over that period of work history, she worked those 10 years combined. Next question. Are you currently married? And has your spouse started receiving Social Security benefits? So I recognize that there are gender pronouns in here, his and her, his mostly, because this is women's savvy Social Security, but I'm also really trying to include, like, I've got some clients that are widowed and they are men and their wives did make more money. So please be gentle with me when I say his or her, okay? So has your spouse started receiving Social Security benefits? It will be clear later why these are important questions. You and or your spouse may be able to receive benefits based on your spouse's benefits. This is why it's really cool to understand the rules. Okay, so regardless of whether or not you are currently married, have you ever been married? Are there any former spouses, dead or alive, lurking out there? Believe it or not, you may be able to receive benefits for Social Security if your former spouse has a work record. Maybe your former spouse's work record is better than yours. That's important for later. If you are divorced, your previous marriage needed to be 10 years or more. And if you're currently unmarried, you may qualify for divorced spouse benefits if your divorced and ex-spouse is deceased. And we'll talk, this is where it gets a little fuzzy, but it's important to know that this is recorded so you could always go back to it and pick up on details you may not. There's a lot of information. Even if you're currently married, you could receive survivor benefits based on your spouse's work record, as long as your current marriage took place after age 60. And again, like I said earlier, you don't have to memorize this. It's a lot. It's called Kelly's Job Security. Okay. Depending on your answers to previous questions, you could be entitled to the following: retirement benefits, spousal benefits, divorced spouse benefits, or survivor benefits. And how you coordinate these are so important to define and determine your Social Security income strategy overall. And I think, John Adams, you were here for the last webinar I had, and I was just about to get the flu, but at least I'm not coughing as much as I was. I just need to drink some water. Okay, so let's talk about some Social Security terms, because I hate jargon, and I know Jason Curtis is on this webinar, and he and I laugh about this a lot. I don't like jargon because it excludes people from understanding what we're talking about. So we're going to go really slow. So the first concept to understand is what's called full retirement age. And you're going to see these three letters, FRA, a lot. FRA means full retirement age. Your FRA is the age at which you can fully claim your Social Security benefit without any reduced benefits. So for some of us, it might be 66. Some of us, it might be 67. And when I was talking about the Social Security Trust earlier, when you look at this chart and we think about item A, full retirement age when she received her first benefit was 62. And then in the 70s, they changed it to 67. And then later they changed this fifth age when you were born between 1955 and 1959. It was the 66 and X months. And then for those of us born after 1960, it is 67. In order to, it's my professional opinion that in order to ensure the Social Security trust viability, they're going to change that 67-year age for our kids, not those of us that are on the webinar today. Okay. The next important concept is to understand your primary insurance amount. So I'm looking at who's attending today. All of you can log into ssa.gov and get your social security statement. We used to get those in the mail. They don't do that anymore. So the PIA is called your primary insurance amount. And so this arrow where it says 67, for this person, that is their PIA, primary insurance amount. So this, again, I'm going to say that the system uses the highest 35 years of earning. On the second page of the statement, if you ever get it, that's got a history of your earning income every year. The only thing you can change on this statement is your annual earnings amount. So you need to look at that as much as possible because you are getting so when you file your taxes, the Social Security Administration updates your earning history. And Esther, I'll answer your question in just 1 second. So when you look at your first page, you're going to see this 62 to 70 amount. On if you have a hard copy of your statement, on the third page, you're going to see a history of what your earnings have been. Okay. If you see something on that statement, on that side of the statement that's incorrect, you can make a change there. And that is part of that 35-year average. And so, Esther, you're asking, do insurance and benefits, are they used interchangeably? I don't know what I said about insurance. So I apologize. Did I use insurance, Chaz?
At the PIA.
Oh, primary insurance amount. Thank you. Absolutely. Never thought about that, Esther. The primary insurance amount is the term that the SSA uses to define your monthly benefit. So yes, they are interchangeable. Sometimes I get so passionate. You're welcome, honey. Sometimes I get so passionate about this, I don't remember what I say. So anyhow, going back to that statement, and if you go online, it's the third page, but if you have a hard copy and you open it up, it's like a presentation. You open it up, the third page is where you see your income over years. My mom would see all zeros. Joni, who is a teacher I was talking about, would see 10 years of zeros. And so this is why I really encourage folks to work a little longer, because if you replace zeros with working a couple years longer, that will definitely help. Okay. So again, like if you've taken time out to raise children and now you're back to work and you really want to retire at 62, this is where we would be one-on-one and say, let's try and work a little bit longer. Okay. Okay. Any other questions before I move along? And Esther, I'm so grateful that you asked that. Okay. So we're going to talk about different kinds of benefits. There are retirement benefits, spousal benefits, and survivor benefits. So a retirement benefit means that if you've worked at least 10 years in a job that's paid into Social Security, because believe it or not, some jobs, especially if you work for a railroad, and we do have a client that worked for a railroad, they don't pay into the SSA. But if you've worked 10 years in a job that paid into Social Security, you are entitled to retirement benefit. So that's what we're going to talk about next. And also, these slides will be provided, so you have these links later. But if you really want to know what your benefit looks like, this first link, socialsecurity.gov/my-account, that's where you can create your own account to get these updates for you personally. So if you're over 60, okay, I'm going to say SSA, Social Security Administration, will send you an annual statement 3 months before your birthday. Okay, and that will show you on hard copy what you're entitled to. If you're under 60, you can't get that yet. So that's where this first link, socialsecurity.gov/myaccount, okay? And it is a little tedious to create this account because of, you don't want people logging in. So it's a pain in the butt to create your own profile. Please write your answers down. If you're already taking Social Security, you're not going to get a statement anymore. You're going to have to log in. You can also access this thing called the retirement estimator. Again, you have to have a login, but it will tap directly into your work history. And I cannot stress it enough that if you can replace zeros, that matters so much. Okay, moving forward. Any questions? Okay, so your retirement benefit will depend on what you claim. And we talked a little bit about primary insurance amount, or PIA, which is, again, the amount you can apply for at your full retirement age, FRA. So what happens if you decide to claim at a different age? It matters. This stuff matters a ton. If you apply for Social Security retirement benefit before your full retirement age, you will receive a percentage of your PIA. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim at 62, you will only get 70% of that PIA. So if your PIA is $2,000 and you decide to turn your Social Security on at 62, you'll get $1,400 a month. That's a big difference. Conversely, if you decide to wait, so let's say your Social Security full retirement age, FRA, is 67, okay? And your primary insurance amount is $2,000. That's your PIA. I know I'm being redundant, but I want you guys to see this and know it quickly. So if your full retirement age is 67 and you apply at 68, your benefit will increase by 108%. At 69, it goes up to 116. At 70, it goes up to 100. I don't have anything that's guaranteed at 8% in my investment structures. Don't. And if I do, it's too terrifying. But this is really important. So if your PIA is $2,000 when you're 67 and you wait until you're 70 years old, your permanent benefit will be $2,480. And that's before your every year cost of living adjustments. Okay, so here are your claiming options. And so I know this is super technical and I'm halfway through our slides. I don't want to rush. I want you guys to have an opportunity to ask questions. Chaz, can people ask questions verbally or just chat? We've never asked that either.
Just in the chat.
Okay. So stop me if there's a particular question. It's important and I don't mind going slow. Okay, so here are the claiming options. Let's say you turn 62 and your PIA, your primary insurance amount, is $2,000. If you apply at 62, again, we said this earlier, you're going to get $1,400 a month. And then if you claimed at 62 when you're 70 years old, and let's say your annual cost of living adjustments are applied, at 70, your monthly income will be $1,640. Now, and again, I'm using broad brushstrokes here. Everybody's different. But let's say you could afford to wait until you're 70 and you get that increase that after your full retirement age at 67. Oh my God, you could have $1,400 at 62 or $2,906. The reason this is important is because if you are like my mom or like Joni and their husbands made more money, encouraging my dad or Joni's husband to wait till 70 means the other benefit we're going to talk about, their survivor benefit, is at $2,906. It's very important. So here's where we can see what a big difference it makes. When you're 85 years old, your monthly income will be $2,208. If you applied at 62, or if you waited till 70, it'd be $3,911. And I know everybody's really sensitive about inflation because it's a real thing now. But that's a huge difference in the standard of living. These amounts in the third column may seem high for you now, but you know, with inflation being what it is, it's a real deal. Okay, now again, keep in mind that the rate of inflation I'm using is only 2%. Okay, so the when apply question is very complex. And these are, again, some of this stuff is going to be big and bloppy. Your individual situation is different. And this is where I encourage you guys to meet with me, because I've got this really cool tool that I use your numbers to show you the really why. Okay, so the when to apply is very complex, and I can create a customized analysis for you. We will always talk with your tax preparers as such, but I think it's important for people to know, like, I do have people that say, well, I'd rather have $1,200 in my hand now, which could make sense. So again, like I said, it depends on the person. And that cost of living adjustment does magnify the impact of retiring or taking that benefit early or later. The other thing that is so, so important is that survivor benefit. We really want to have a discussion around your spouse and when they decide to turn it on. Okay. So reasons to file before your full retirement age, and that is called, again, FRA. So these are reasons not to. We talked about this. Your benefit will be reduced forever. If you are working and you turn on your retirement at 62, there is an earning amount that there's a how do I explain this? You can only make for this year $22,320. Okay. Now I have a client that makes $19,000 as a florist. She can turn her full retirement on, a reduced retirement benefit on now, because she won't be penalized. But if you make more than that, for every $2 that you earn over that $22,320, they will take $1 away. Now, some people, it doesn't matter to them, but some it does. This is where it gets a little touchy. I'm going to go back to this slide one more time. Now, I have another client that is going to turn full retirement age in July this year. And because she is turning full retirement age this year, she can make over $56,000 a year without penalty, because she only makes $40,000 a year. So that's not defined in these slide decks. So if you're in a situation where you want to kind of look at the year you turn full retirement age, there's still an earnings limit, but it does change dramatically. All right, so let's talk about spousal benefits. When Social Security was first instituted in 1935, most women didn't work, as we talked about. Even though women are making more and working more, it's still really important to understand the spousal benefit. And that is important because your record may not, the earning record, your earning record might be lower than your husband's or your spouse's. And this also applies to gender neutral, because now if you're married, same-sex marriages are included in this benefit. So let's start with a simple example. Here's Jack and Jill, they're married. Jack's PIA is $2,400. Jill, like my mom, never worked, so she doesn't qualify for Social Security under her own work record. After Jack files for his benefit, Jill can file for her own spousal benefit, right? So we had retirement benefit, spousal benefit, divorce spouse benefit, and survivor benefit. So now we're talking about the spousal benefit. So Jill qualifies for 50% of her husband's benefit. If she applies at 62, she will only get 35% of his PIA, which may work for them. So now let's talk about coordinating their benefits. There are some rules, shockingly, that we have to follow here, but knowing the rules, you can make your own sort of work it to your advantage. First, if you file your Social Security before full retirement age, you will receive your own reduced benefit. You're under your own work record. So this is assuming that you work 10 years. If your PIA is less than 50% of your spouse's PIA, you may receive also some of a spousal benefit. This is going to be complicated, just bear with me. If your PIA is more than 50% of your spouse's PIA, you won't get a spousal benefit. So here's an example. Let's say Jack's PIA is $2,400 and Jill's is $800. Jill files for her benefit at 62 before looking at any spousal benefits. She'll be paid on her own benefit first, which is 70% of her 800 PIA. So she'll get $560. Let's say Jack is 4 years older and has already filed for his benefit. So Jill's eligible for a spousal benefit. To calculate that spousal, what's called an add-on, they will subtract, okay, you guys are going to kill me, but we're doing the math. They'll subtract her PIA from 1/2 of his PIA, which is $1,200 minus $800. So that's $400. So at the end of the day, she gets an extra $260. So that brings her from $560 to $820. And believe me,
Now, when you're done with
Yeah.
this slide, we do have a question.
I see that, and I'll get that in 2 seconds. Thank you, though. I want to make sure you guys understand that a lot of people think that they're eligible for half of their spouse's benefit, but if they file early, it is reduced. So, John, you took your benefit at full retirement age. Did you just say that even though I waited full retirement age as a penalty? No, okay, thank you, John. So you took your benefit when you were at your full retirement age. Thank you, John. I didn't even recognize this. If you take your Social Security at full retirement age, you can make any kind of income after your full retirement age. If you have more income than that 22,000, where is it? $22,320. Okay. If you started your benefit before you were full retirement age, they will take $1 for every $2 you earn. That does not go away. So, John, you're right. Your earnings are actually correct. You will not get penalized. The thing this slide, we're trying to cover so much in so little time. The benefit is not taken away forever if you retire, if you start taking income before your full retirement age. It does true up. So I kind of made that water muddy. So if two spouses are relatively equal PIAs, they would not get a spousal add-on, correct? Yes, John, you're right. And we're going to cover that in a second. And this seminar may run a little long, guys, but I'm looking at who's on the call, and please know that this will be recorded, but this is one of those that, oh, John, yes, you did the math. And you're an engineer. Of course you did. So if we run long, I'm not going to stop this webinar because it's super important. It will be recorded, okay? So coordinating benefits. Let me make sure so we covered that. Okay, here's the next slide. If you file at your full retirement age and you qualify for a spousal benefit, you may receive a maximum spousal benefit, which is 50% of your spousal's PIA. If your own benefit is higher, you will receive that amount. Here's an example. So if Jill files for her benefit at her full retirement age, FRA, she will be paid her full PIA, primary insurance amount of $2,000. She will not be entitled to a spousal benefit because her benefit is more than half of Jack's. Now, I think that answers. Okay, John, I'll make sure you get the replay, okay? Okay, so let's talk about divorced spouse and what their benefits are. So the way this works is you will be eligible for a spousal benefit if you've been married to that spouse for more than 10 years and are currently unmarried. Pay attention to this. Okay, here are the rules. If your marriage lasted 10 years or longer, if you are currently unmarried, and if your ex-husband is at least 62 years old, you may be entitled to a divorced spouse benefit. If your divorce occurred more than 2 years ago, he does not need to have filed for his benefit. He only needs to be 62. Here's an example. Dick and Dora are divorced. They were married more than 10 years. Dora is 62 years old and currently unmarried. Dick's PIA is $2,400 and is over 62. Dora files for her divorced spouse benefits at her full retirement age and starts receiving 50% of Dick's PIA, or $1,200, which I find is so crazy. Dick's benefit will not be affected if he's currently married, and his spouse, her benefit will not be married. And let's say he's got other ex-wives. None of their benefit. If he had 3 wives, ex-wives, none of their benefits are affected. I'm pretty sure the folks that started this Social Security benefit idea probably didn't think about serial marriages would actually be a real thing. But there you go. It's important to remember that even if you meet all the requirements for a divorced spouse benefit, if your own benefit is more than half of your ex-spouse, you're not going to be entitled to that divorced spouse benefit. It is not possible to take a divorced spouse benefit and let your own benefit grow to 70. It used to be a thing and they turned that off. However, if your ex dies, the survivor benefit will generally equal 100% of the amount your ex-spouse was receiving. So that's the survivor portion of this divorced spouse benefit. And I am working with a couple people on this. It's not an easy thing. You would want to get an appointment with somebody local here. There's a Batavia office and there's a Greece office that would actually probably meet with you face to face. That divorced spouse benefits are a little chunky to get turned on, but there's a good process and we understand that. Okay, so now let's talk about survivor benefits. You probably can't even imagine. I certainly can't. What would happen if my husband, okay, so I could think about my ex-spouse dying, but not my current spouse. I like him. but women do tend to outlive their husbands. And Tim had a question. I didn't see that.
Yes. Tim, in your
Oh,
example, said if Jill
okay,
starts
thank you.
collecting early and her husband hasn't signed up yet, when her husband reaches full retirement age, if it's 3 years after Jill has started collecting, will she then get the spousal add-on? If so, how much?
Okay, so yes, maybe. So that's where these things get fuzzy. So what I do is I ask folks to get their most current Social Security statement for themselves and their spouse. Sometimes the ex-spouse is hard, but let's just say that they are married. I can run a simulation to give them an idea of when to turn it on. The other thing to know is if you're under 62 and you have a login to Social Security Administration and can get your own statement, the actuarial numbers are not solid until you turn 62. And so when we talk about Jill collecting early, this is a very fuzzy. Tim, I don't know how to answer that accurately because I don't know enough about the couples. There's like 1 more year, maybe 2 more years where some of the old rules apply to spousal benefits. So sometimes I'm an advisor that can't give advice because I don't have enough information. So how about that? Sorry. Yep, if I have real numbers, I can fuss with them and give you an example to run through it, okay? All right, so survivor benefits are something that we talk about a ton because it applies to more people than divorced and widowed. Okay, so let's say, unfortunately, sometime you're eligible for survivor benefit and there are age-based bands that are important. If that survivor benefit is higher than the benefit you are receiving at that time, whether you're married to that person or that is an ex-spouse, you can switch to a higher benefit. So even though it may be a long way off, you need to understand how these benefits work to your benefit. Okay, now I want you to follow this really careful. And again, this is really technical and I thought I was going to be able to get this done in an hour and I'm just not going to do it. So apologies. Survivor benefits depend on 2 things. The first factor is that when your deceased spouse originally claimed benefit, that's called original benefit. The second factor is when you claim your benefit, and that is called your actual benefit. These 2 events are usually separate. So as an example, your husband could claim his Social Security benefit at 62 and then live to like 80 or 90. You won't qualify for a survivor benefit until he passes. But the fact that he took his benefit at 62 means that you have a much lower survivor benefit because he claimed at 62. Example, Jack, again, his PIO is $2,400, and he dies at age 70 or later. The original survivor benefit will be $2,976 if he had claimed at 70. That's the original survivor benefit. And that's because he claimed at age 70. Or it will be $1,980 because he claimed at 62. Right? So there's such a big difference here. Okay. Now we get to Jill's actual benefit. We've already seen the original benefit could be anywhere between $1,980 or $2,976, depending on when Jack claimed his benefit. So if she's over 60, now this is if I've had this happen where a husband was older than the wife and he died. So, and she had kids. So if she was over 60, she could apply at the same time And if she goes to her Social Security office and tells them that Jack died, they will probably encourage her to turn it on at 60. Because what the Social Security admin people are encouraged to do is get folks to turn on their benefit as early as possible, which is not a good idea in most situations. Everybody's different. So you can see here, Jill applied for her survivor benefit at 60. She'll have $1,716 a month. If she waited till 62, it's $1,980. This is a very, very big deal. And I've seen things happen like this and you can't unwind them. Okay, so, survivor benefits can be claimed as early as 60, as we just said, or if you're 50 and disabled. Okay, so if you're disabled, you can claim it at 50. But remember, it's diminished. The amount, if you have other assets, investable assets, it's important to at least talk to somebody about when to turn it on correctly. Okay, the other thing is, if you haven't been married for 10 years and your spouse dies, you may be eligible for survivor benefit if you've been married for 9 months. This does also apply to same-sex couples. So when planning ahead for when you might need for your own, it's important to remember that you receive higher benefits if your spouse filed later. Planning is essential. Okay, ex-spouse. So if your ex-spouse dies and you are either unmarried or married and the marriage took place after 60, you may be eligible for divorced spouse benefits. This one gets a little Jason, someone in this room whose name shall remain nameless is wondering what if Jack dies before he starts to claim? How do you calculate? Okay, that is you would, I don't know any Laurens, maybe a Lauren. That's adorable. So the deceased spouse is over 67. The spouse that survived would take marriage certificates and death certificates to the SSA and have a face-to-face meeting. And the SSA will give you your options. That does not mean you should turn them on. They will give you your options, and you're welcome, Boren. Okay. Great question, by the way. If your ex-spouse dies and you're either unmarried or you're married and the marriage took place after age 60, you may be eligible for divorced spouse survivor benefits. A lot of women won't think of this, especially if they're married and divorced many years ago. So as an example, Sam and Sue were married in 1970 to 1985. Sam died in 95. Sue was not remarried. As soon as she turns 60, she'll become eligible for divorced spouse survivor benefit. Remember, though, that if she starts it at 60, her benefit will be reduced. So if you think you might outlive your spouse or ex-spouse, we really, really encourage people to have the spouse that had the higher income earnings record to delay. Some people don't have enough assets to live on, but man, this is an income you won't outlive. So we really try and help folks figure out a way to wait as long as you can. All right, so coordination of said benefits. And we are super close to the end, and I'm only 1 minute over. Thank you for being patient. So let's talk about coordinating benefits. And there's two kinds. Again, survivor benefits and your retirement benefits. Retirement benefits are those that are under your record. Survivor benefits are the ones we were just talking about, where the spouse who has the higher income amount also will have the higher benefit amount. Okay. What if you qualify for both retirement benefit and a survivor benefit? And this is where it gets kind of cool. This will be the case with most of you. Well, I don't, but some of you. Now, if you and your husband are well over 70 when he dies, if it will be straightforward because you'll get the higher benefit. What I'm talking about now is if you're under 70 and qualify for survivor benefits now, either because your husband died, and we did have that family whose the spouse was 56 and husband was 66, and they had 2 kids. So what I'm talking about is how to coordinate that certain thing, whether you were married at the time or you had an ex-spouse. Again, it matters that you were married for 10 years or more. Okay, what can you do here? What you can do here is switch from one benefit to the other. But you have to be careful and strategic. So you could start your own benefit at 62 and switch later to the survivor benefit, which is very cool, okay? Or you could start your survivor benefit at 60 and switch to your own benefit at 70. Okay, so here's an example. If the survivor benefit is higher than the retirement benefit, meaning your own record, you want to take the retirement benefit at 62 and then switch to the survivor benefit at full retirement age. So in this case, Linda could start her own benefit, which is $700 at 62, and then switch to full survivor benefit at her full retirement age, which bumps her up to $2,200. That is so wicked cool. It's not even funny. Conversely, if the survivor benefit is lower than the retirement benefit, you want to turn the survivor benefit on at 60 or as soon as you become eligible for it, and then later switch to your full retirement benefit at 70, which is, again, so cool. So in this case, Dora has a high PIA, that's her primary insurance amount. Her survivor benefit is $1,800, which is less than her own benefit. So she claims her survivor benefit at 60 and receives a reduced amount. So the survivor benefit was $1,800. Because she's turning it on at 60, it's reduced to $1,287 from age 60 to 70. And then later she switches it. Now, the other thing to know is Dora is not working a lot. So that $22,280 income limit is still in play, okay? So aren't you glad you guys decided to sign up for this? There's so many cool things to talk about. Okay, so if you're divorced or widowed and thinking about remarrying, keep these rules in mind. If you remarry, I should say, at any age, you can't receive divorced spouse benefits. So if you're already receiving divorced spouse benefits and thinking about remarrying, understand that your divorced spouse benefit will stop, not your divorced spouse retirement death benefit. It's different. So I'm sure I've just fried everybody. However, you may be eligible for your spousal benefit based on your new husband's or new spouse's record. Believe me, I know these are very fuzzy and difficult, and I've had to read them over and over again. And so I'm going to keep going. But if any of you have questions about the divorce things, I'm seeing people that are on right now. None of you are divorced, but some of you may know somebody that is. I will help more. I just want to make sure that we're not as late as, I mean, you know, I love to talk. All right, so here's a summary of survivor planning if your spouse or ex-spouse is still living. If you're married, encourage the spouse that makes the most money to delay in their benefit. As the spouse that doesn't have the highest income will benefit should that spouse pass away. On the other hand, if your spouse is in good health and has a long life expect, well, wait, I missed something here. If your spouse has some health problems, you should claim. So you got to remember that these are broad brushstrokes. Everybody's different. What the other pacing items here are, how many investable assets do you have? Does it make sense? So we're just talking about Social Security benefits. It does couple very, very nicely with our financial planning process. Okay. If your spouse or ex-spouse is already deceased, do what we asked about earlier. Compare your own benefit to your survivor benefit and take the higher benefit last. That way you will get that guaranteed income. So again, a little redundancy here, but strategies. If you're currently married, coordinate with a spouse. We really encourage folks to wait as long as they can. If you're divorced, consider maximizing your benefit. Those zeros, you want to replace zeros if you have them. If you're widowed, coordinate your retirement and survivor benefit. Take the highest benefit last. If you've never been married, you're on your own with no help to spousal benefits. So you should consider maximizing your own benefit, and that's replacing those zeros again. So I know, well, I can only imagine how you guys feel with this conversation. There's a lot of information. If nothing else, I hope that this workshop gives you some idea on places you might want to start to have a conversation with us. I want to make sure that you know how to maximize this, because I know that people hear the word entitlement on the news. It is an entitlement because we paid into this. It is your benefit and you deserve this. How you turn it on is your personal stuff, and we'll help you figure out the way to do the best for you. So let's wrap this up. Shockingly, we're seeing so many people live past 95. Social Security is still one of the best ways to provide inflation-adjusted income. Your decisions matter very much. And of course, I keep saying this, delay, delay, delay. And that spousal and survivor benefit thing is so important. I will tell you guys, this is my favorite topic, and this is something that we are really good at, especially coordinating with Medicare and Medicaid planning. And so that's it. I mean, I know I ran over 10 minutes, first time in a year, but I am infinitely grateful that you guys participated. Are there any questions before we check out? I am definitely propeller head about this. If you guys want to play with scenarios on what it might look like so we can plan on helping you guys figure out when to turn it on, I'd be delighted. And I'm very grateful. This has probably been the most questions we've gotten on a topic in a long time. So really appreciate your participation. And that's it. There's going to be a little survey at the end when you guys check out. I would be very grateful to hear what your feedback is, because there's a part in there on topics that you might want to hear about more. We can definitely dig more into this if you really want to. Boy, do I love to talk about Social Security, but that's all I have. And I'm grateful for your attendance, and I understand that we're 11 minutes over. So thanks for being patient.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone. Esther, yes, we have done a webinar on Medicaid
Yes,
care, and that's on our website, but Kelly can also send you a link so it's easy to find.
I will. And also Esther, just so you know, I do a webinar and update every October-ish. So the detail for last year is pretty vanilla, but there'll be another one in October. Thank you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.